Shalom, holy initiates and holy adepts. And I am specifically addressing only actual holy initiates and holy adepts. So if you are not a true, very advanced holy initiate and adept, I command, I'm not asking, I command that you leave now, lest you face the wrath and curses of Adonai Elohai. So as already emphasized, I'm going to begin with the prerequisites for this very advanced esoteric Shabbathian teaching. First and foremost, that you have definitely mastered the Idra Rabba and the Zuta. Both the Idra Rabba and the Idra Zuta must have been mastered, which entails an entire mastery of Sefer HaZohar. And more importantly, that you have seen my mini-series entitled The Highest Holiest Da'ath, and all three parts of this series, because this series is the first revelation of its kind. It is a most sublime, holy, esoteric revelation that has not really been taught, or is not even in really any books, at least fully explained in any books, not in the way that I teach and reveal it. So it's a very quintessential, momentous teaching that must be mastered and watched, which of course entails a mastery of the Idra Rabba and the Idra Zuta, which can't really be fully mastered without the quintessential, momentous Lyrianic texts. So again, this is an extremely advanced esoteric teaching. We need to understand that in this video, we are now at the Shabbathian level. So the assumption is that you have climbed the rungs of the classical and Lyrianic mystery schools, so to speak. And this teaching I'm calling out from what is considered to be one of the most advanced and esoteric books of the Kabbalah, a Shabbathian, the quintessential Shabbathian principle text, which is none other than Sefer HaBriah of our holy prophet Nathan of Gaza. Now, you talk to any grandmaster, and they will right away tell you that Sefer HaBriah is probably one of the most, if not the most advanced Kabbalistic book out there. I hope to do a video soon covering, generally speaking, this book alongside a few other very advanced esoteric Kabbalistic books. But it is definitely, I can attest from reading it, that it is probably, at least for me, personally speaking, it is probably the most complex and most advanced Kabbalistic book that I have ever read, bar none. A total attestation to the sheer genius of this very holy prophet, major holy prophet for that matter. And so I just want to emphasize that this is a very advanced esoteric teaching from this very powerful advanced esoteric book. And I feel very privileged to have access to this book, a book that has been concealed for centuries now, that was only in the hands of elites, of a handful of very elite, scholars, you could say. So I just feel very excited and very privileged to have this book. And if I don't sound excited or privileged, you'll just have to excuse me that it's currently like 4 a.m. and it's very near my bedtime. So I'm quite relaxed. I'm quite in a deep state of relaxation and holy meditation. Hence my calmness. So before I begin the teaching, I want to state that the quintessence of this teaching is regarding the superiority of Zeranpin over Aringanpin with respect to holy worship. And this is why this is such an advanced teaching, because I recall my earlier days when my initiation was at the level of the classical Kabbalah. And I remember when I was first studying the Idra Araba, right, which is the first principal text that begins the revelation of these two chief gods of Israel. And being this quintessential primary revelation, right, the holistic understanding of this holy esoteric text is the superiority of Aringanpin or Zeranpin in all ways, in all matters, right? So my understanding at this time, being ignorant of all the higher levels that I had yet to reach, was that indubitably Aringanpin is superior to Zeranpin in every way. Thus, we must worship Aringanpin. Thus, it only logically follows, at least this is how it seemed to me at that time, that the superiority of the holy saints, really of the grandmasters, would be in worshiping Aringanpin over Zeranpin, right? But this is very immense, great ignorance, right? And as a budding initiate and adept, there are so many things that are over your head that you just don't understand. Just why it is so momentous to climb the ladder and go as high as you can, so that you don't look stupid and ignorant. And so it's only natural, right? It's only fair that I was not fully initiated at the time. I was just beginning my real true holy initiation. And just from reading the Idra Rabba, it was very clear that clearly Aringanpin is superior to Zeranpin. Now the truth is that absolutely, quintessentially, Aringanpin is superior to Zeranpin in every single way. But that does not necessitate that we must worship Aringanpin solely over Zeranpin. This is a demonstration of great folly and ignorance. And so this is why you have to be so careful with these holy texts, because they're so complex. There's so many esoteric levels and layers to them, right? One over the other, etc. And so this is why it is so momentous that you have a grandmaster that you can sit at the feet of and learn, that can show you all these things or prepare you or warn you of entertaining foolish, ignorant thoughts, that can guide you properly and accordingly in your initiation. And so this is when I got to the Shabbathian level, right, that my world was turned upside down, because you think you understand, and you, as you climb higher and higher, the more and more you realize that you don't really understand, that you really don't have any understanding, which is, this goes back to the famous teaching of Socrates, who said, the only thing that I know is that I know nothing, right? Clearly he must have reached very high, exceeding levels of initiation to entertain such a sublime thought as that. So that's the context. I really wanted to lay this very momentous, quintessential context to this teaching, because, and my biggest, I don't know the right word to use here, but the last thing I want to see a week from now is that this video has hundreds of views, because it doesn't deserve hundreds of views. There's probably only less than maybe like 5 people that truly deserve to watch this teaching and video, because I'm sure the vast majority of people that have acquaintance with the Zohar haven't truly mastered the Idra Rabba or the Idra Zuta. You can't without the principal Lurianic texts. Let alone have they reached the true Shabbathian level of initiation to understand these matters. So not going to be too happy about that. But for those of you that are truly deserve this teaching and to watch this video, it's very critical to lay this foundation of understanding in this context. Even more helpful to explain it from my own vantage point. So, with that established, let us now get into the mist of the matter from within the mist of the essence of the matter. So we're going to begin in Sefer HaZohar. I'm just going to read a tiny passage from Sefer HaZohar in Volume 2, Folio 37a. This is Parashat Bo and Sefer HaZohar. And it begins with certain disciples of the Rashbi, in Holy Convocation. So one of them begins by saying, "But since we are worthy of all of this, and the way was set before us, let us go to Rab Shimon Bar Yochai, as I have heard that he is cleansing the marketplaces of the city of Tiberias." And they stayed until daybreak, and when it became light, they got up and went. When they reached him, they found him sitting with the book of Agadah in his hand. He opened the discussion, saying, "All the goyim before him are as nothing. They are counted to him less than nothing and vanity." And he's quoting Sefer Yeshayahu, chapter 40, verse 17. Now, we're going to get back to this verse. Duly note this verse because you have to really dive really deep into the Hebrew to fully understand this verse. He asks, since it is said, all the goyim before him are as nothing, why is it written also, and they are counted to him less than nothing and vanity? And he answers, I have learned the philosophies of all the goyim of the world, whose faith is as nothing. So here, the Talmudim are questioning him on the double language in the verse. And so, reverting back to the philosophies of the Goyim, quintessentially, they do not unite the upper levels with the lower levels. So this is not the best translation of the underlying Aramaic. So the underlying Aramaic there is Dela idbaku ilain watatain, which is Aramaic for they do not unite or cleave the upper with the lower. They place for themselves a faith of stupidity. The Aramaic there would, I think, more properly be rendered as stupidity, which is a bit more harsher than foolishness. And they are counted to him less than nothing and vanity, like chaff that turns in the wind and rolls during the summer in the fields, empty, for it has no contents at all. This is the meaning of, and all the inhabitants of the earth are reputed as nothing, quoting Sefer Daniel chapter 4, verse 32. So this again goes to show and demonstrate the superiority of Israel over the Goyim. And we make no apologies. If you're a Goy, we're not going to make any apologies for this. These are the facts. You're inferior. It's a fact. Deal with it. I don't know what to tell you. Take it up with Hashem. But we Israelites, we are superior in every single way to all of the Goyim. Period. This is a very elitist nation, a very elitist culture, etc. We are just elitist. And then you have the elite of Israel, right? There's Israel as a nation, and then there's the elite of Israel, the holy secret order, secret society that runs the world, a handful of holy tzaddikim of Israel who are so ridiculously elite that it just boggles the mind. It's just very elitist. I mean, you can't even imagine the elitist nature of the holy secret order. So now let us go into Sefer HaBriah. So I'm going to give you my very lucid, clear English translation of the underlying Hebrew text, right? You have to understand that there is no English translation of Sefer HaBriah, right? The highest, most advanced, most esoteric Kabbalistic texts, they have no English translations. So consider yourself very privileged that you even get to taste a little bit of manna because of me. So we're going to begin in Sefer HaBriah, which is this section is taken from folio 9b in the original manuscript, which would be page 192 in the standard edition of the text. So Nathan of Gaza here begins this folio with a commentary on the section we just quoted in the Zohar. So referring back to this passage that we just covered in the Zohar, he asks, why is the language doubled, right? So he's reiterating the question that Rashbi's Talmudim asked. So he says, like nothing and vanity, he considers them. And so it comes to teach us about the religion of the Goyim, that their faith is like ayin, right? Because if we analyze the original verse that is cited in Yeshayahu chapter 40 verse 17, it states it says the Goyim are ka'ayin. In Hebrew, ka'ayin is like ayin. We know that ayin means nothing, right? So there's a lot of Kabbalistic levels to this word ayin. So he says their faith is like ayin, because in the verse, the Goyim are being equated like ayin, or nothingness, which is to say that the faith they believe in is the serpents which were created from the teheru that is not perceived. So they worship, even if they don't know it, they're worshiping the evil serpents because they don't have any knowledge of the holy serpent, the great high holy serpent that we worship. So their theosophies and their philosophies are the worship of the evil serpents that inhabit the Tehiru. No eye or intelligence has seen it or reached it in reference to ayin. Now we know from the Zohar that ayin is an occult reference to Kether, the highest sphera, which is quintessentially Ein Sof. So what they worship at the highest level, all of the philosophies, many of the philosophies and theosophies of the Goyim, at the highest level is the worship of Ein Sof, or Kether, who is nothing. So he's saying, well, we know regarding this attribute that no eye has seen it and no one has reached it. So if you have a degree of high intelligence, it doesn't make any sense to worship that which you cannot see and cannot reach, right? It's total vanity. This is exactly what the verse states. And there does not exist any attribute that is connected or cleaving firmly in it, for its essence is extremely fine or subtle. The Zohar says that they do not unite the upper with the lower, which is to say that the attribute of ayin, of holiness, does not have any cleaving to the upper nor the lower. So he's making some very some sublime points here. But I wanna lower this level. I want to take this level a few notches down, right? When it says that the Goyim do not cleave the upper with the lower, we're talking on one level about the masculine and the feminine, right? Because the theosophies and philosophies of the Goyim have no knowledge of the divine masculine and the divine feminine, right? much of their knowledge centers around the divine masculine without the divine feminine. So there's no unification. And holy divine worship is at its core, at its nexus, is unification, the unification of the male and female attributes, the divine male and female attributes, the unification of Hakadosh Baruch Hu and his Shekhinah. And because they have no knowledge of the divine feminine, that's why we can say that they do not cleave the upper with the lower. There's no unification, no talk about unification, no words of unification in their theosophies and in their religions. But more importantly, even more sublime level that Nathan of Gaza is revealing here is that the upper attributes don't cleave to Cather. And so they run to and fro and receive a faith of stupidity. And they desire to equate their faith with our holy faith. And see, that's the quintessence of their stupidity and retardation, is that they would dare to equate their stupid faiths with the holy faith of Israel, the highest, most archetypal supernal faith. But it is distant from them, entirely distant from them, for he did not make letters or signs and miracles like he did with the Neshamot of Israel, who for this reason are higher and greater than them all. So even, see, you think that it's just me, you think that when I, the Chief Magician of Mystery Babylon, am constantly repeating that the Jews are superior, that we are the master race, that we are greater, I mean, you think this is a knowledge of all the grandmasters. Here you have Nathan of Gaza, the greatest and highest and holiest prophet of the past 1,000 years, bar none, telling you, demonstrating his full-blown elitism, telling it like it is. We are elitists, quintessentially. And we know that the Neshamot of Israel are greater and superior to all other Neshamot of the Goyim. It's an inconvenient truth, but I don't make no apology for it. I don't care what you think or how you feel. I'm going to state the truths. It's an inconvenient truth. There's many inconvenient truths. So he goes on by stating, they are not able to cleave in him, and they say their faith is greater than the faith of Israel, but certainly, like nothing in vanity, he considers them all. And they don't even know this. And you have to know, you have to understand that we're absolutely talking about Christianity on many levels here. Because we're talking about the quintessential ancient supernal archetypal theosophy here, right? We're not talking about modern Judaism. We're talking about true Judaism at its core here. It's the true quintessential Judaism that only the elite of Israel fully know. Because you have to understand, there's many Jews that are in this same bucket with the rest of the Goyim in many ways. So let's have a full understanding of the matter here. So he continues by, again, reiterating the verse, the quintessential verse here, right? Which is Sefer Yeshayahu chapter 40, verse 17, which states in the Hebrew, Kal hagoyim ka'ayin negedo. Right? So there's many levels right here. So I have to dive very deep into the Hebrew. So now, Nathan of Gaza is going to reveal an exceedingly esoteric level to this verse. You have to be fluent in Hebrew to know and understand this. So he's going to read the Hebrew verse as Kal hagoyim ka'ayin. Then regarding the word negedo, he's going to split it into two parts. Neged and the letter Vav. So now, on a very esoteric level, we can read the verse as Kal hagoyim kain neged vav. Right? Which is that all the faith of the goyim is like ain against vav, or over vav, which we know that vav is the occult symbol for Zeir Anpin. So now what the verse is saying on a very esoteric Kabbalistic level is that the goyim are like ain because they worship ain, right? In contradistinction to the worship of Zeir Anpin. So what the verse is saying is because the goyim worship ain, right, which is Kathar or Ein Sof, they're considered like nothing or vanity. Now, the word here that is used for nothing is tohu. If you go into the Hebrew, in the original Hebrew, he says he considers them like nothing, and then after he says nothing, he uses the word and like tohu. So what does tohu mean? You don't have to go into the Hebrew to have a full understanding of the verse. Tohu, yes, tohu can mean nothing, but recall Parashat Bereshith, like the very second verse of the Torah, which says, and the earth was tohu and bohu. There's many levels to the word tohu, right? Yes, tohu can mean nothing, it can mean vanity, it can mean invincible, it can also mean chaos, it can mean waste. It's the byproduct of destruction, waste. It can mean waste, it can mean chaos, right? So think about the God that you're worshiping. That's why Nathan of Gaza says that they're worshiping the evil serpents, which are the archetypes to waste and destruction and vanity. That's what they're worshiping. They're worshiping tohu, the waste, the chaos. And so that's why it's only natural then that Hashem considers them as nothing. Considers them like nothing. And so thus is their faith, because in truth, it is a faith of stupidity, which is not but nothing and tohu, as the verse states. Adonai is killing tons of goyim. Do you know how many goyim die on a daily basis of famine, war, natural disasters? Why? Why do you think? Even Christians and even some Jews. Because when your faith is a faith of stupidity, you're counted as nothing, and really it's like your life doesn't matter. Who cares? A tornado happens, you'll die in the tornado, you'll die in an earthquake. I mean, it's just like your life is nothing. Who cares? You're a useless eater, as the Luciferians would state. They're just reiterating what all the holy grandmasters and the holy Illuminati already know. We're in agreement with these elite Luciferians. There's tons of useless eaters out there. There's tons of goyim that are just nothing. Who cares? Adonai doesn't care about them. Hashem doesn't care about them. He considers them as nothing. So go figure. Go figure why we're so elitist. Go understand why the nature of the people that run the world, what their nature is, what their beliefs are, and why. So this concludes this teaching. It's a very short, very powerful, very advanced esoteric teaching from one of the highest, most complex, advanced Kabbalistic books, Sefer HaBriah. And so, with that concluded, Shalom, Wassalam.